Welcome everybody to, I don't know what to call it, I suppose a mix of the Faith and Reason podcast and the Paving the Way Home podcast.
Yeah. So I suppose, knowing the two of us, I'm the talker.
Yeah.
But if this interview isn't much good, you can have it.
Yeah. No, so I guess after everything that happened this weekend with the Ignite conference here in Cork, we decided to, well, it was coming over anyway for a chat, hence the reason we're in Kevin's kitchen, having a nice cup of coffee. And we said, you know what, let's throw on a camera.
As you do.
As you do. So, what a weekend for you. So, how many weekends, how many bank holiday weekends can you say is, when someone asks you on the Monday, what you get up for the weekend, or the Tuesday, I should say, and next thing you're like, just interviewing Scott Hahn, Father Mike Schmitz, Ralph Martin, you know, as you do.
As you do. Yeah.
So come on, tell us, how did it go?
It was incredible. Well, you know how it came about because you were part of the group that put it together, because I suppose, like, initially, this was supposed to happen in the Silver Springs Hotel.
Yeah.
And it was Father Mike Schmitz and Ralph Martin. They were booked. And then Father Morris contacted us to come together and form a committee. So he had picked other people on the committee and things. And so we were just trying to come up with a theme and what way would we aim it and things like that. And then COVID-19. And so then it just looked like it's not going to happen. Yeah. Nothing will happen. And it was amazing how it came about, because remember we had that meeting where the committee were to have that meeting where we were just saying, this is what, about 2 months ago maybe, something like that. And we just said, right, are we calling it? We have to pull the plug on Silver Springs. And then it was just suggested, can we try and take this online? And of course, none of us had experience of doing that and different things. And so we said we'd give it a shot. And then that's one of the things over the weekend that it struck me about the talents and gifts that God gives us. Because I think especially Pentecost weekend, right? Because you're thinking about, we hear about all these charismatic gifts and, different things like that. But we kind of overlook the actual everyday gifts that we're given. And I was just thinking, I was really struck over the weekend that, like, there was 4 lay people behind the scenes. There was, in working in total, there was 4 lay people and the rest were Dominicans. And I was just looking at the whole thing, like when you look at it from the start, Father Morris, the prior, he has just this incredible kind of faith. I think where the rest of us, sometimes fear can paralyze us, fear of failure can stop us from doing something. Father Morris doesn't have that. Father Morris is just kind of like, build it and they'll come. Yeah. So he's just like, look, if it's for the Lord, put it on, aim big. Whereas the rest of us are like, slow down. There's cost. There's, there's so many different things can go wrong. And he's like, it'll be fine. The Lord will provide. If we do the right thing, the Lord will provide. And so that just kept it aiming bigger and bigger. And of course, then I think Sister Miriam Heidland was your suggestion at one of the meetings. And she said yes. And then Father Morris reached out to Scott Hahn. He said yes. And then it was like, whoa, we've got a conference coming together here. Yeah. And so with that, then you kind of look at it and I'm a talker. That's all I can do. Mary is gifted with music. Yeah. I mean, she is such a talented musician. But we can edit this part out.
I was just going to say it. You do not want to blow that girl's head.
No.
That pride will soar through the roof. And if she thought we were giving her a compliment,
Mary doesn't get compliments from us.
Nope.
So, Mary's like our little sister. Yeah. So, it was And that was one of the things that made it lovely to be co-hosting with Mary, because, you know, we have so much contact with Mary, and Mary's great friends with Maura. Mary's great friends with me. She's great friends with you. And but you know, like, Mary is like our little sister, you know. There isn't, it's only if a couple of days go by and you haven't had contact with Mary, it's just, you know, you have to text her something, you know, an insult or something. But no, it's that kind of way. So it's to be co-hosting with someone like that. That was great, because there's no nerves then. Because, you know, you're among friends, and then, you know, with the Dominicans, there's no airs and graces. They're just, you're among friends there anyway. And but I was just, so that was like, you know, Mary can talk, I can talk. She had the music. So when we had mass on Saturday to begin with, you know, she had the music. That was a lovely start to it. Then we started, and Father Mike is just the easiest person in the world to interview. He's just so easy. It's like, you know, you just chat. It's so easy to talk to him. It really is. But some of the things I was just struck by, like I was saying with the ordinary gifts, is Caoimhín Lacken, he was there, and he was working on sound. And see, he'd worked for 8 months in a radio station. Yeah, so he then, like, he knew all the sound and controls and things, and I was asking him, he said, like, the jump from radio to TV kind of thing, it's not that kind of, it's not too dissimilar, it's just more buttons, but, you know, the sound thing is the main thing. Father Luke, I mean, what a gift.
I mean, what a genius.
He is a genius. You know it from U2000 and the technical side of things. He's just, I mean, he is a genius. So, I mean, we had a lot of technical difficulties at different times over the weekend and stuff like that. And, you know, you'd be kind of, I might lose the sound in my ear. You mightn't have lost it. I might have lost the sound in my ear. So I'm like, I can't hear anything. But, you know, you just tap on the ear and they're on it straight away. And, you know, I take a couple of minutes to fix. But, I mean, I wouldn't know where to start. But, Father Luke, and I was asking him, like, was he trained in this? And he said, you just figure it out. And I was thinking, you don't. You only figure it out if you're blessed with that kind of talent and that kind of brain to be able to figure it out. Father Damien was there, and he was so good on the admin and getting the right people online at the right time. And because there was a lot of work back there in getting the different, you know, the Zoom meetings and different things, and making sure everyone's there at the right time and all that. So he was great on that. Don Cahalan, he's like, he was in business for the, you know, he had a career in business. So Don was brilliant on admin. Right. So, like, as the floor manager, he had everything on time, you know, just, so that was amazing. It just kept the ball rolling. So all we had to do was talk. Like, it's kind of unfair that Mary and I were kind of, you know, we get a bit of the credit for the thing, because we had the least to do. We really did have the least to do back there. I mean, like, if you think of it this way, if the sound goes or the camera goes, Mary and I just have to sit there and go, someone better fix that. But then back there, they're the ones fixing that, you know, and that's, the pressure was on them. But I was struck. The novices, they were the ones kind of moderating all the comments, and they were putting the questions then into the iPad to feed through to us for the guests or the viewers' comments. And then one thing that really struck me as well was, you know, that in the background, so Father Philip was always there, you know, kind of, he was like, he was coming and going, you know, at different times and stuff. And but I did notice something, that any time there was a technical difficulty, he went straight to prayer. Not in this big dramatic way of like, everyone get on your knees. Where I was struck by it is, I was sitting next to him at one stage, and I heard this kind of gentle whispering when there was a technical difficulty, and I was like, and it was St. Michael the Archangel, Our Lady, you know, and it was straight into just prayer until the problem was over, and then he'll turn back to you, back into conversation. And it was just, you know, there was so much going on, and everyone brought these different talents together, and it was
that's unreal.
So I guess the point I'm making is like that we can get very caught up in, all these different talents, and I want this and I want that gift, and I want, different things. But like, we've all been given so many different gifts. And when we come together as a church and we actually use our gifts as a church, like, the amazing things that can happen.
Yeah.
Do you know, and that really struck me over the weekend.
Yeah.
And
because it's amazing. Like, I was in there on Sunday morning for Mass with the bishops. It was yourself, Don, Mary and myself were the only ones in the congregation. Father Morris was celebrating. And there was the organist as well. And that was grand. When Mass was over, went into what I call the control room, like the NASA control room. There's so many cameras, screens, everything. And but so few people in there in terms of what there was, maybe 4 or 5 people in it, but you'd expect for an event like that it was going to be bursting at the seams. So it's amazing how God just brings all these ordinary individuals together, brings out their talents, and here you tron an event that goes goes around the world, it goes global. And that was that really I couldn't get over, because I was expecting it to be like all these different people, and all, like, the place be bursting at the seams. But yeah, it was amazing.
It was amazing. And actually, Ralph Martin said something that was very it was very funny. He said that, I think it's his next door neighbor or someone a couple of doors down, I can't remember, he said that they have been tuning into Mass from St. Mary's during this COVID crisis. Ralph Martin's neighbor in the States, that this is the Mass that they've stumbled across.
Wow.
And this is the one they're tuning into.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like, it's amazing how small and how linked we all are.
Yeah.
That was it. And to me, the Mass on Sunday was lovely. It was the first time I was able to receive since the 16th of March.
Wow.
So it was like, and then when the Eucharist is given to you by the bishop, there was just something kind of, there was something funny about it, because I don't mean funny, I mean, there was something, when you think back to, it's almost like we're replaying, 2000 years ago, because this is the first time, like, that in our lifetime, that, like, Ascension, okay, it was Ascension Thursday, it's now Ascension Sunday, but Jesus left. You had the gospel, Jesus left. And then we can go up and receive Jesus in communion.
Yeah.
And then we can receive him on the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and we can receive him all the way through to Pentecost. But this year, when Jesus left, we're kind of able to say, oh yeah, he's like, we can't receive him. We can't physically get close to Jesus.
Yeah. And
okay, we know that the Holy Spirit is here. So, but when it comes to Pentecost Sunday, it was, so when the apostles, the first bishops, so they received the Holy Spirit and went out with it. And again, this was my first time meeting our new bishop.
Oh yeah, mine too. Yeah, and me too, I should say.
Yeah, and it's like, I received Jesus for the first time in all this time on Pentecost Sunday from our new bishop.
Yeah.
And there was parts of it like that were just kind of, there was little echoings, and you're just thinking, I suppose it's like, we talk about all this negativity about church numbers and, different things like that at times. And, I suppose the media can jump on the church's back, and we can get caught up in the negativity. But the way it was all kind of like, in a way, resembling, the beginning of Acts of the Apostles, you're thinking, then we can have this evangelization conference, the feedback that was coming back, and you're thinking, wow, if we put this into action, we really can have the ending of Acts of the Apostles.
Yeah.
We can work here to spread things. You know, it was very uplifting, the whole thing. You know,
that's amazing. What was your highlight of the weekend? I'm not going to be so bold as to say who was your favorite. Who was the favorite person to interview, or will I?
If you asked me this 12 months ago, I would have sat here and I'd have said, "Oh, Brian, of course, Mass was the highlight, because there's viewers watching and blah, blah, blah." And it would have been a kind of a pride thing. In all honesty, Mass was the highlight.
Yeah,
because being able to receive.
When I had to do a prayer of faith, I had to do, what did I do? Oh, I had to do the novena prayer.
Yeah.
Just before the bishop's final blessing. And when I went up and I was looking down, and because there was only 3 faces, I saw you, and for a second I was trying to hold in a smile, because I suppose, look, growing up, whenever there was something, I suppose you were always the messer in our family. Yeah. So it was always you trying to make someone laugh. And when I looked at you for a second, that's what I thought you were going to do. But it was only after a few seconds I realised that you were actually crying.
Thanks for bringing that
to
the attention.
You're most welcome.
I was, and I wouldn't have thought it would have happened.
Yeah.
And this certainly doesn't happen every Sunday or every day that, that I, receive. It was just, and I didn't, I went up, I received, and there was a funny moment just before receiving. So I was we'll say, should have been the first to receive.
Yeah.
And I was like, no one told us, can we receive on the tongue?
Oh, yeah.
Or do we have to go in the hand? Yeah. So I was like, I'm not going to go up and stick out my tongue. And the bishop looking at me going, no.
Yeah.
So I was like, but I don't want to go up and receive in hand if I can receive it. I'm not caught up on that whole thing. I'm just very comfortable receiving on the tongue.
Yeah.
So that's all. And so I was like, I'll stand back and I let Don out of the seat first, like a gentleman. And so Don went up, and I think he was kind of thinking the same. So anyway, he went in hand. And we all went in hand. That was fine. So that's what I was kind of thinking.
Wow. Okay.
So that was fine. But I came down, and it was just, I was kind of struck by, I suppose it was like, no one is allowed to receive at the moment. Well, you know what I mean by no one. Yeah. And for some reason, Jesus has allowed it that I can receive, that day. And yet, I am totally unworthy of it. There's so many more people who are more deserving of it. And yet, okay, I'm unworthy of it. That's fine. I'm unworthy of it every Sunday. That's fine. But it struck me how unworthy I was. And so I was kind of like going, well, thanks. Like, I mean, I'm unworthy, but you've chosen me. And it was just, because you and I had a conversation about the painting of the Calling of Matthew last week. Different things like that, the Caravaggio one. And so it was kind of like, because we were talking about the being called and things like that, it was kind of like, I don't know, it was just, there was an honor in it.
Yeah.
And I was struck by that honor. And I suppose that's an honor that I've always taken for granted.
Yeah.
It's not an honor I have every Sunday, and I should have.
Yeah.
But
we're all the same.
Yeah.
We all fall into that trap. Yeah.
And so that for me was the highlight, and anything after that, it didn't matter. But highlights, I actually really enjoyed the panel on the family.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one because you've Pat Reynolds, Jackie Asco, Sister Beatrice Clark, and they all have amazing kind of family stories and things like that. And they were great, you see, for me to be able to tap into for advice. And it was a panel that there was a lot of comments coming through from YouTube. It was a panel that because
what day was that panel on?
I thought it was your highlight.
Oh, I mean, yeah,
Saturday at 4:00.
Oh, exactly. That's it.
Yeah. So that was Saturday at 4:00, and I really enjoyed that one because I suppose it's one of those ones that you can kind of contribute to because you are a parent, even though Michael's only 2.5. So, but I mean, it's like, the questions you're asking at that one are also like, people had questions about teenagers and things like that, and you're like kind of going, I'm heading into unknown territory, and so, that one was great. And see, there's so many parenting books out there.
Yeah.
But they're worldly parenting books.
Yeah.
So to be able to talk to Catholic parents,
yeah,
and then obviously Sister Beatrice is not a Catholic parent, but but she is a teacher in a secondary school, and so she's like a mother to all these little kids, and she's seeing kids coming from all different types of families and parenting styles, but she also comes from an incredible family.
Yeah,
they have a large family, but there's been 3 vocations in the family. So I was like, and they were public schooled and things like that. So I was like, I just wanted to know what did her parents do to instill good faith in that family.
Yeah.
So for evangelizing the family, I thought they were a great panel to be able to get. So I enjoyed that. Starting with Father Mike on the Saturday at 2:00. He's just so easy to chat to. He's really, really easy to chat to. But the funny thing, it was my first ever kind of public or live interview or anything like that. And so, I'm not someone who had pre-prepared questions or anything, because it's not like a lack of preparation, but it's like, I think if you've pre-prepared questions, you're not in the moment.
Yeah.
You're kind of going, when will they shut up so I can ask my next question?
Yeah.
Like the look that you have on your face right now.
Well, that's the look I've had my whole life.
Yeah.
Being your brother.
No, but I mean, like, you're kind of wondering when, that kind of thing. And I've seen that interview style at times in the past where it's like, oh, okay, Grant, next question.
Yeah.
Whereas, I don't know, I'm interested in people, so I like to listen to what they're saying.
Plus, you don't know exactly what direction they're going to go in the interview, so you kind of have to be... Yeah. It was funny. I got a few texts on Saturday when you had started. Now, I was kind of tuning in and out because with the kids at home and everything, but there was people going, "Oh, Kevin, he's flying it. He's natural. He doesn't seem nervous at all." And I'm like, I was replying to them, I was saying, "Are you kidding me?" And I actually forgot to say this to you afterwards, but I was like, I tell you how incompatible Kevin and nervousness are. And I told back, I was recalling a situation in around 2003, 2004. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah. So you said it as part of my best man speech.
Oh yeah.
Well, you say it's your best man speech on my wedding.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love it, that actually.
Yeah.
And I was saying, look, there was a friend of ours who was about to do a book launch, and it was for the J1 students, and was in a hotel here in Cork somewhere in the city, and like the room was teeming with people. There was literally, I'd say, around 1,000 people.
I think it was like 800 or 900.
Something around that. And because remember, it was packed. And next thing, last minute, just before he was to go on, he got stage fright. And you'd come along for the spin, whatever, hadn't read the book. You had a general idea what it was about, but had not read the book. And you said, "I'll do it." And I kind of laughed, going, "Ha ha." And he said, "Excellent." And next, you started walking up, and I was like, oh no, what is going to happen here? You did not know what was in the book. You spoke for 15 minutes. You got like a standing ovation, and afterwards on the way down, people coming ask you to sign the book and ask you questions. And I was holding my head in my hands going, oh my gosh. Yeah. So when I was telling, I was getting those comments on Saturday, I was like throwing this story back, and people were like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think I remember at the time as well, I did a Q&A afterwards. I kind of said, like, on the stage, I was like, any questions?
That's right.
And I was giving people advice on their J1. I had never been to America, not mind the J1.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a funny time. But then again, that is kind of what I was saying earlier about the different talents and gifts.
Yeah.
Public speaking, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of that thing that, like, no one person could have put all this thing together.
Yeah.
And done every role.
Yeah.
There's only one role I could have done at that. I couldn't have done any of the other roles.
Yeah.
So, everyone had their different talents, and that was kind of the thing. But it was it all passed off. Yeah, it all passed off really well. And I think what was also great was it highlighted, because the weather was so good, but the viewing figures were so high, because it wasn't just on that channel. Shalom TV were showing it, Radio Marie were showing it. So we got all the ratings back afterwards, and they were very high.
Wow.
And, and from, like I said, there were viewers from the States, there were viewers right across Europe, there were viewers, I think someone mentioned Australia and things. And there was just, some of the things, like, I suppose it just highlighted this hunger that's there to bring the church on, and to just, people just want that solid teaching. They want to know, what can we do? We don't want kind of this kind of watered down kind of nice. And Ralph Martin spoke about that on Sunday, and that was another one of my highlights on Saturday. Was Ralph Martin, when he spoke about that, perhaps we should be saying your God is too nice, because we have and I think that actually is a big part of why we're doing what we're doing, because Jesus says the way to heaven is hard, but we've made it sound incredibly easy. But it's not easy. It is hard. And some of the teachings are very hard.
Yeah.
And, there's times in the Gospels where Jesus is saying things and people say, this teaching is too hard.
Yeah.
Or people walked away and, they were very sad walking away, but they couldn't, live up to it. And so there are teachings there. But I'm just thinking, like, with Michael at the moment, there was you and Lana and Jessica and Amelia called here a few weeks ago, and Michael got a nettle sting a few weeks ago. And when he got the nettle sting, he was crying and he was saying, oh, the nettle bit my finger and different things. So that was fine. But then he wanted to go up and he wanted me to slap the nettle, and I was like, no, it'll bite me as well. Yeah. And so I was saying, don't touch the nettles. And I just said, don't touch the nettles. And I saw him standing there and he wants to touch them. Yeah. And he's like, and I was just, it was almost like a God to Adam and Eve moment, kind of like, you can touch anything except that nettle. Yeah. And he just wants to go for the nettle. And then he's like, why? And I just said, I was just thinking, like, okay, I better explain it to him. He's 2.5. But I was like, so I just said, but Michael, it'll bite you. Daddy can't touch the nettle. Mammy can't touch the nettle. Nobody can touch the nettle. It'll bite you. So just stay away from the nettle. So then he was like, oh, okay. So Daddy can't. I was like, no, none of us can. And then when ye called round, this was days later, Jessica and Michael were walking around the garden, and Michael took her up towards the nettles. And I was watching, I was like, what is he doing now? And then he just said, Jessica, no touching the nettles. He said, it'll bite you, it'll bite Daddy, it'll bite Mammy, no touching the nettles. But what I was thinking is, the more we explained the reason for the rules. Then he got an understanding, and it made sense.
Yeah.
And he realized it was there for his own good.
Yeah.
And there are so many church teachings, and they look archaic at times. They look like the church needs to get with the times. But I think it's just that the times have just moved away from the church.
Yeah.
And we're in pretty messed up times in many areas. And the way society views certain things as being normal, you know. So with that, it's kind of a case of, well, let's explain some of these teachings. Let's get into the nitty gritty. And so that was one of the things. And of course, mine being the Faith and Reason podcast, it's based more on Dominican teaching, like Thomas Aquinas' teaching, you know. And I suppose because it's based on, you know, this fantastic, and I couldn't put words on, well, I was going to say I couldn't put words on like Thomas Aquinas' teachings when I read them first, but that's true. When I read them first, they seemed like Chinese to me.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, Scott Hahn summed it up really well. Scott Hahn said on Sunday that he said he's a secret Thomist. He said that the Dominicans, he loves the Dominicans. He said that he's a secret Thomist, and he thinks that Thomistic theology, that is the teachings of Thomas Aquinas, that this theology is the theology that will save the church. Now, I was reading something the other day that over the last 200 years, pretty much every pope has said that the teachings of Thomas Aquinas are the teachings that will save the church.
Yeah, it's interesting because I suppose, you know, in setting up Paving the Way Home and everything, the reason, that was one of the reasons that we were that we wanted the Faith and Reason podcast to take place and to focus kind of down that route. Look, Paving the Way Home it's another apostolate. We're not trying to save the world. There's going to be flaws. We're just another cog in the wheel, so to speak, just trying to do our bit. It's not we don't think it's the be all and end all of everything. We're just felt God calling us to do this, and we're trying to do our best, and that's it. But I was reading, it was particularly, I think it was Pope Leo the 13th, where whatever was the heresy at that time that he felt, he was like, you know what, we need to go back to Thomistic theology. And that got me teaching. And the reason I related to today is, look, particularly with social media and everything, and actually in the panel that Father Morris hosted over the weekend, one of the last questions that came in that they didn't have time to answer was, you know, it's grand talking about all the good things of social media, but there's negative things as well. Yeah. And that's so true, because if you go on to, you know, you go onto your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, like it's brilliant. Like you know, the whole world has a voice now, and that, you know, here we are sitting in your kitchen, and yet, like, when we publish this can go wherever we want it to go. We can send this wherever we want to, and that's a great.
People mightn't watch it, but we can send it.
That we can send it, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about technology. But then, on the other hand, is the fact that we can say anything means that, you know, we can say things that are not necessarily true either, even if we think they're true.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I found, is that, you know, you're going, and I'm not talking about just Ireland, I'm just talking about universally. Like, you go onto your social media and you're looking at such and such a person says this about the church or about a particular teaching, and they're really strong and they have a load of followers saying it.
Sure. Next
thing, this person is saying complete opposite, and they have a load of followers about it. And all of a sudden it's like, you know, you're this person believes this person believes that, but you're thinking, but what does the church actually teach? And, you know, we kind of seeing, you're even seeing it in the church sometimes. You're seeing maybe a bishop might say this, another bishop say that, and now they're contradicting each other, and you're like, okay, but what does the church actually teach?
Yeah.
And I often wonder, like, why aren't we actually going back to the catechism, and are going back, and like, this is not, I know there's been one or two people have been asking me about, like, what is paving the way home, and they're thinking, oh, you're sitting in front of a camera reading the catechism.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, well, no, that's not what it is at all. But what
Yeah.
we're just trying to do is discuss what does the church actually teaches, not what I think it teaches about a particular area, or but what does it actually teach?
Yeah.
And just to try and bring some clarity. And to be honest here, look, you're the same. You're thinking of the future now with Michael and with the other child, Eve, on the way. I'm thinking the same with Jessica, with Amelia, with the other child, Weave, on the way. And you're thinking, well, okay, because, we're coming from Ireland where, traditionally we have devotional faith. I have a devotional faith, and I love the devotions. They're very important, but sometimes we don't go any further than that. And you're actually thinking, well, do I know what the catechism teaches? Do I know what the church teaches on a particular area? And the reality is I don't. And it was only when we started doing the theology course, and you're reading the different documents and teachings, and you're like, whoa, like, this is unreal. Like, why haven't we known this?
Yeah.
And that was, I suppose, that was the beginning, or that was something that really kind of gave the kickstart as well, and to get this kind of a thing going. So that's where we're at now. But that's, I suppose, I'm after beating around the bush there a bit, but that's kind of what led down the path of getting the focus on Thomistic theology. Go on.
No, because I was that's interesting, because some of the feedback from the weekend has been interesting. All good. Well, I say all good, mainly good, but some of the feedback has been quite interesting. People, very devout people, like really, really good Catholics, and they'd say, I didn't like what Ralph Martin said about salvation. I didn't like what Dr. Scott Hahn said about cremation. Okay. And people saying, oh, I didn't like that. He shouldn't have said that, or he shouldn't have said that, because, it offended people, or it moved people in, it made people uncomfortable. And my response was, Ralph Martin never said anything this past weekend that was Ralph Martin's own opinion, if you know what I mean. Ralph Martin's books, he's quoting church teachings. Scott Hahn, it's Catholicism, like what he talks about cremation and the history of cremation and different things like that. It's historical fact, and but people don't like to hear things sometimes, and so they just assume that the person who says something shouldn't have said it. But it's quite interesting, because if you look at what Jesus said, people didn't like what Jesus said, and it was funny. And I suppose when we look at the religious people of the day back in Jesus' time, they were the church leaders, the church teachers. Jesus wasn't one of these people. Jesus was, I know he was, he's a rabbi, but Jesus was, in today's kind of world, I suppose it's like we calling him like one of these speakers at a conference. No, obviously he was divine, but what I mean is Jesus wasn't just hanging around the temple as a high priest and things like that. And so there were church authorities and things like that, and because of that, people didn't like what Jesus had to say. But what Jesus spoke was the truth. Yeah. And when people hear the truth, like, the truth is the truth. But when people hear the truth, people don't like the truth, because the truth moves us out of a comfort zone. And so I found that some of that feedback quite interesting. And some of the shows that I've lined up for the Faith and Reason podcast, it's not just some of the listeners that will be won't say uncomfortable or whatever, but there are certain things that I'll find uncomfortable because I'm not a living saint. I'd love to be. And please God, I will be able, please God, someday we'll be able to say, oh yeah, he was a living saint. But what I mean is, I have a long way to go. And so because I have a long way to go, there are certain things that, I need to be told, because I can't say that every single thing the church teaches, I am doing. I'm trying to. Everything I'm aware of that the church teaches, I am doing. But, there are times still where, one of the things that kind of struck me there was this whole coronavirus, all these conspiracy theories, and Catholics getting caught up in conspiracy theories and talking about, this person or that person and, this has been done to control the world or that, all this kind of stuff. And but there were individuals being named.
Okay. That
will say nothing could be proved beyond all reasonable doubt. It was just trial by, I won't even say by media, trial by social media. And it was like, well, this is this and this is that. And there were so many even conflicting different things, and this was all going around, and Catholics passing it on and stuff like that. And, I was just thinking, this is spreading scandal. And I was looking at the catechism, and I was looking then at the definition of scandal and things like that. And when I was looking at it, I was like, because, you've got different categories in there, and the sin of detraction, saying something about another person that if I know something about someone and I say it to you and it changes your opinion of them in the negative, may not be based on total and utter fact. You may not need to know it. There's lots of different things. I'm guilty of that a lot. I mean, someone just bugs me, and because we work together, I'll just say to you, whatever. And I'll just say something maybe at times like, and I might rant about someone. Or I come home and I, give out about you tomorrow. But on things that, and it's quite funny because I said that to my spiritual director once, and he said, why don't you rant to Jesus about the person? So why don't you go there, he said, and rant to Jesus, he said, and then see if you feel like talking to Maura about it after.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah. So, you go to Jesus and you're kind of like, you just realize, take the log out of your own eye. And usually as well, when someone annoys me, it's my pride is actually what's being annoyed more than someone annoying me. But what I mean is, with that thing of detraction and the sin of scandal and all that, I'm guilty of that. But I don't realize it a lot of the time. It's just, it's habit. It's, it's habitual. So then I have to go, okay, I need to work on this. And when that's worked on and the grace is there to fix that and go, like, and I cooperate with that grace and that area, need to be watched, but it's not so much a kind of a habit anymore. That's not going to be my only flaw. I'm going to, a lot more flaws are going to come up. And so, I suppose like that's what I mean by, I don't live by every single category. I'd love to. But it's kind of like that these things pull us out of a comfort zone, and to change is painful. But it takes pride can stop that, and sometimes when we hear a teaching that we don't like, we can just kind of go, no, not having it. But it's
and there's a danger then as well that the teachings of the Catholic Church become like a menu that you're looking and you're saying, no, I'll take that one, I like that one, or that one sits well with me, or
a la carte catechism.
Exactly. And it's a natural thing where I think it's a natural thing. Look, if no one likes pain, no one likes struggle. So, like, for example, if there's a candle lighting here and my hand gets too close to it, I'm gonna pull away from it. And it's the same that, you know, like I remember a spiritual director saying to me before that no matter how long or short any moment of prayer is, that it should still challenge you. You should always come away challenged or taken out of the comfort zone. And that's different to, like, some people say, oh, but what about the peace of Christ? Like, that's different because you can feel challenged or taken out of your comfort zone, but there's still an underlying peace there, because if it's Jesus and God, like if taking you out of your comfort zone, you're still going to have that underlying peace because it's coming from God.
There's a difference between uncomfortable and peace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they all
are uncomfortable and lack of peace. There is a difference. Yeah.
And that's what struck me. It was like, you know, you should always be some way challenged after every moment of prayer. But again, you can only do that by the listening, and we always hear that. We always hear that. You know, when you sit in prayer, listen. You always hear that, but we don't know how. We don't necessarily. A lot of the time, we don't know how to do that, or we're not great at it. And I think it's because of the world we live in. We have our phones, our technologies. We're always on the go at work, kids. You know, you're running here, there, everywhere, and by the time you come home in the evening, at times you're going to say your rosary with your family, and next thing you're dozing asleep, and next thing you can go a few days and realize, wow, I've done prayer, but I haven't really sat and listened to God. And unless you do that, it's going to be very, very difficult to. It's going to be very, very difficult to hear what he's saying. There was something recently that you said after one of your spiritual director, you met your spiritual director, and it struck me. He was telling you about when you're praying the rosary, and when you're meditating on the mystery. But if the meditation doesn't end after the 10th Hail Mary of that decade, tell us about that.
Yeah. So, because I guess when we're praying the rosary, we're meditating. Yeah. But it takes 3 minutes, 4 minutes to say a decade. And then we move on, So the rosary is a great entrance into prayer. It's, and it does. It has vocal prayer. It's got meditative prayer. It's intercessory prayer. It's, it combines everything. But it's a great entrance into meditative prayer. And it's one of those things, you can be meditating on a mystery of the rosary, and your meditation might start to go deeper, and something may be revealed to you. Yeah. And you hit, you've hit 10, you get the glory be to the Father, and then you're like, kind of, out of it, move on to the next decade. But what he said is, if you're there, just stay with it. Keep going on that decade. Keep meditating. Keep praying more Hail Marys if but just keep meditating on that decade. Don't feel like that decade has to end. And it's and just keep going and stay with that decade and go deep into the meditation. It may lead to contemplation and you might come away from that decade with a greater, with something revealed, or a greater peace, or a greater, something. And meditating on that decade might be, a very powerful thing to have done that day. And then you can move on to the other decades. And
that's primarily what Our Lady is doing. She's constantly bringing us to Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it was an interesting point when I heard that, because so often, especially if you're coming from a really busy schedule, you have, a next thing, you come home, it's been a crazy day, and next thing you're going into, look, we pray the rosary at home every night, but sometimes it could be nearly the third decade before you're really kind of getting into it. I know you have the 15 promises, the rosary, and the rosary is a really it's a powerful devotion. But in order to, you need to be focused as well, because sometimes we can be rattling off words, but we're not really meditating. We're not, the thing is, like, we're not meditating properly in the life of, and it can take that bit of time to switch off. So it just really struck me when he said that, when you came back and the next day, I think in work, you were saying it, and it was like, wow, because like I was saying, well, I'm definitely guilty of that. Every time I come to I might only be getting into it, and my mind is kind of clicking in at maybe the fourth, fifth Hail Mary, and next thing by the 10th one, I'm going, okay, on to the next one.
Whereas it might take you 4, 5, 6, 7 Hail Marys to start to meditate.
Yeah,
and he's saying, keep going. Just keep going. It's the difference between entering into prayer and getting our prayers done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something sometimes that we just want to do.
Yeah.
And of course, it's better to just get your prayers done than not do any prayer.
Yeah.
Because it's tough at times. But like that, I think sometimes when prayer is dry, it might take that little bit of time to get into it. And if it does take that bit of time to get into it, just keep going. Just and it's not about, I think that's the thing. And I think sometimes as well, that something I've been very guilty of in the past was mixing, or not mixing necessarily, but confusing good prayer with good feelings from prayer. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That, like, sometimes you go, oh, I got a lot out of that. And yet when I go and I visit a friend, I never leave a friend's house going like, oh, I got a lot out of visiting them. Because I didn't go to get a lot out of visiting them. I went to just spend some time with them and, just have a nice time. And sometimes conversations are more interesting and revealing than other times. But you always leave strengthened in your relationship with your friend. And, but if we leave caught up in the feelings I get up in it, or get out of it, I think that's something that really was a massive block for me in prayer before. And then I found, well, I have to jump from this to this. This has gone dry. I got to try this and try and see, can I get something? But on the meditations, I'm reading a few books. I'm always have about 4 or 5 books on the go. And basically the way I kind of have the books is something meditative that you just read bite-sized things and meditate on just, and I don't mean like sitting there all hum. I mean, it's just think about it, ponder. Might be stroll around the garden, might be sit down and just think about it. That book for me at the moment is Fulton Sheen's The Life of Christ.
Oh wow. Yeah.
That's a class book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's thick, and it's not one you can blitz, because
actually Father Patrick Hattle mentioned that in his homily a few Sundays ago.
Yeah.
It was that book. It was unbelievable.
I'm loving that book. It's like that. It's a book that I don't know if I'll ever be finished that book, because when I get to the end of it, I'll probably have to go back to the start of it. And it's not a book also that you have to read kind of from straight through. You can skip straight to the Passover, for example, or that kind of. And it's that book. Love that. There's Jose Maria Escriva book, I think, In Dialogue with Christ, or in Dialogue with Our Lord. I can't remember. That's another one. And those books, they paint so many pictures and images and stuff like that and take meanings deeper. That it helps then when you go to prayer. That you can see, oh yeah, I'm being called here. A book I like to go back to now and again is Walter Chiswick's book, He Leadeth Me.
Yeah.
That book, it's just a classic. It's a book I just keep recommending to everyone, because the real takeaway I took from that book was kind of every situation we're in, the Lord has allowed us to be put into that situation. and why. There's a teaching moment in every situation. And so some situations that we're in, that could be a really good situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little gift to reveal to us where we're at.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's certain things that like we may have been working on, you know, we may have been praying for the grace for to grow in certain virtues. And now and again we might get this little gift of a situation presented to us where we might go, wow, I mean, 12 months ago or 6 months ago, I would have reacted totally different to that. Yeah. And then it's like, praise the Lord, look what he's done in my life, because we don't always see these little growths. So that's it. But more often than not, when we're in situations, you know, it's kind of like, what's the teaching moment here? What's the Lord trying to teach me? And, you know, I could be late for something, driving down the road, every traffic light is red, there's slow cars, silent season, there's, you know, there's all this. And I'm getting so frustrated. And, you know, from that book I've learned, it's like, hang on, I can either get frustrated and annoyed and try and, you know, or I can realize this is a teaching moment, patience. Yeah. I am not good with patience here. And so praying then, it's highlighting to me to pray to grow in patience and you know, and things like that. And then you might just be in that situation 6 months, 12 months down the road where you're a passenger in a car and the driver is like, you know, freaking out the way you used to freak out.
Yeah.
And it's not about you judging the person next to you, but it's like, it's also a moment for you to kind of say, oh, wow, thank you, Lord. You've actually really helped me grow in patience here. And, you know, and obviously, you know, you can, you know, there's, that book was just because it's a true story about his life and how he was sanctified, you know, through his life, or, you know, he's not a saint yet, but, you know, it's, but what I mean is it's like he's dead and the Vatican's looking into his case for canonization, But I'm just saying it's just an incredible book and an honest book. And that's another beautiful thing is honesty, I think. And that's something that truth and honesty, they're very attractive things. And that's something I love in that book. And I go back to it a lot. And so there's, what I'm saying is that because and then I love other books. I love other books then that, you know, the book that you'll try and read and blitz out and change it out or whatever. So it's but yeah, that's the thing. But I do find that reading is an art that we've kind of lost. And it's something that we're good at reading our phones. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much time I've wasted reading fake transfer news.
Yeah, and the football,
And the football, like just fake transfer news. And I'm looking at it and seeing, like, you know, Ronaldo might be moving to Cork City kind of thing, and I'm like, I know this is not true, but I have to read this article. And I waste time reading so much rubbish. And so I kind of I kind of a few years ago I pushed myself back into reading, and I love a good book. You know, it's funny because Father Damien inside in the Dominicans runs a men's book club, and I'm part of that. And there's some great men, all ages, and there's some great men, and it's great to be around men like that. We can speak about some of these books. So it's a monthly book club. Maura is part of, she runs another book club for women in Cork here and stuff, and it's great just the reading and chatting and stuff, and it's just you learn so much more. And one thing I've noticed with reading is you could sit down and watch TV for a couple hours and you walk away going, I've wasted so much time watching TV. You never say I wasted so much time reading a book.
Yeah.
You know, that's
true.
That's something I love reading, and I find that spiritual reading definitely helps you to go deeper. I read Teresa of Avila's Interior Castles before and blitzed it years ago, and never really understood it
Yeah.
or kind of got into it. So that's a book I have that I want to read again. It's been sitting next to my bed for the last, I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I think I've read the first page or two, and I just haven't got back to it. At the moment now, you and we have our exams this week and next week. So after that, I'm kind of looking forward to being able to get back to some of the books that I want to read, as opposed to theology books for college. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that book then, you know.
And with the Faith and Reason podcast, just tell us what's the future hold for that? What have you up your sleeve?
I could pretend that I have a lot planned and then say, well, Brian, I don't want to reveal it all. You know, you just wait. But no, there are some great plans.
Yeah.
So I have lined up a few different Dominican priests. There are others that we've agreed to speak, and, you know, we'll that I don't yet know the topics they're going to be speaking on, because the way I want to do it is I want to let them pick the topic, something they're comfortable with. And then I can question them about it and just, you know, try and get a deeper understanding of different things, because it's not an exam.
Yeah.
And I don't want someone to come along and say, you know, everyone has their area that they kind of specialize in, you know, and think some people are more into moral theology, some are more into spirituality and things like that. And so I want them to pick the topic.
Yeah.
And I'll just question them. Kind of like, I suppose, like with Ralph Martin, like with Scott Hahn, like with Father Mike Schmitz. But I suppose with Ralph Martin and Scott Hahn, they had talks prepared, and afterwards I was questioning them. Whereas with Father Mike, you could kind of dialogue right the way through. I preferred more of a dialogue.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, so that's kind of my excuse me. That's kind of my plan.
Yeah.
But we do have a couple of different series and things like that we are.
They're
working
exciting.
on. Yeah,
they're exciting. I know we can't reveal a while.
No.
Until a few things get sorted, but they're exciting.
They are, and so there's with that. It's great to be able to speak to people who can just, you know, speak to us in layman's language, but just take these teachings and just show the beauty of them, because the catechism is beautiful, but it's a summary.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can read the catechism and say, this is what it says, and, you know, that's pretty much why it says it. But like that entry in the catechism may have come from a huge piece of a document that was written that really and then you just see, like, in the catechism that, like, there's a citation and it mentions the document and you find the document, and then, but we don't have time to do that for every entry. But in a dialogue, you know, that whole thing can be summed up, so the catechism thing can be expanded, and we you know, so it's you know, but again, not expanded to just anything, but to reveal these documents and this church teaching, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. What about you and your show?
Yeah, it's been great so far. In terms of lining people up, obviously, what we're doing is, in my show, we're doing everyone bar Dominicans. So we're leaving you focus on the on the Dominican side of things, and I'm doing the rest. It's been great. It's been fine so far. I suppose the only thing is, with this whole coronavirus and that, there's been a lot of deliveries that have been late coming. So in terms of, say, equipment and cameras and lighting and stuff, we've been fine so far, but we've just been waiting for the final bit. So, like, even with the first few podcasts, I'm just looking forward to improving the quality of the sound, of the visual, and that. In terms of interviews, it's been fantastic. Like, this whole project it's taken me by surprise insofar as this was always planned to be something way smaller. It was only going to be almost a written thing, because I much prefer writing instead of speaking like this. And that, but it was just that when different priests, different individuals got wind of it, and all of a sudden it just blew up into something way bigger. And look, whatever God wants to do with that, he wants to do with that. Look, it's completely voluntary at the end of the day. We still have our own jobs. We have our marriages. We have our children. We have, Maura has a baby in the way. Lan has a baby in the way. The end of our summer anyway for both of us is going to get interesting. You have this, but you know what?
And our theology studies.
The theology studies we've done, which we're supposed, hopefully Father Peter O'Kane isn't watching, because we should be doing some of our papers at the moment.
Yeah. We have a week.
That's it. We have until Saturday, but I know we have it under control. But so there's a lot going on. But you know what? Look, we'll just do our best and see what happens. But I am excited. There's some.
I guess it's kind of like when I was talking to you before about it. You were saying that if I knew all of the work that would have had to go into getting it to where it is, if I knew it at the start, I wouldn't have done it.
That's it.
But when Peter was a fisherman in the boat, and he's called to follow Jesus, when Matthew is called, if the whole thing is going to be revealed, like that, and then you're going to be crucified as well. So come on, this is going to be great. You'll all be hated and killed. You'd probably sit there and think, I'll stick to catching fish.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest with you, I said that so many times. I said, even starting out in this, if I had a glimpse of the future to see just, what was involved, where we're going, I probably would have run. I'd have said, you know what, that's for somebody else. Definitely. But look, it is where it is. But what I'm very excited is, I am excited about the series that you're doing, but I'm also excited about, I know there are some other cards up our sleeves as well, that are in, and I'm very, very excited about that as well. Even when the two things come together and what we have in store for that, it's something very, very unique, something special, and there's a few things in store that I know we can't really say anything at the moment, but I'm looking forward to that. There
are permissions to be asked first and things like that. But it's I just, what I'm kind of struck by with the whole thing is the difference between following Jesus and trying to get him to follow us. And what I mean is, whenever we're called to follow Jesus, this is something that struck me a few weeks ago in prayer, and it was just something where it was just the line "follow me" was I was praying Lectio Divina, and the line "follow me" was very strong at the time, and I was just thinking about it, and as I was thinking about it, it was revealed to me, like, and this makes, it's not any major revelation. But in my head, it made a lot of sense in my head. In that it was a revelation to me and shouldn't have been. But it was like, how often do we, because you would say, I trust Jesus, okay? But then you're asked to do something and it might be out of your comfort zone, and you're thinking, oh, no, like, I'm not doing that, or I'm not doing, well, actually I should do it this way instead, or I should do, and the whole thing of like following Jesus is, well, he'll lead the way.
Yeah.
He'll make the things happen. We're just the instrument that's following. But sometimes we can try and get ahead of that, and we can try and lead. Yeah. And that's
sometimes
not,
like, we want to know. Yeah. Where we say, look, Jesus, I have no problem following you as long as, or are we giving him conditions? But that's it. I think it's human nature for us to kind of want to, roll back, and we say, oh, look, Jesus, I give you everything. But in the back of your mind is, as long as I'm happy with it, kind of a thing. Or you bring me to where you want as long as I'm happy with it. Yeah. Whereas, now we're putting conditions where we've been asked to give unconditionally, and to let Jesus lead us wherever he wants us to, even if it's to, even if it's down a path of trial and suffering or a path of absolute bliss and joy, that's his decision. That's
pride was a big issue for me. Like it's still something that rears its head, and it's something I have to watch. But when I say I have to watch it, it was in spiritual direction that this was highlighted to me as well. So, I was asked to do something one time, and I did it well, got a lot of praise for it, and pride started to soar a little bit. Instead of giving praise to God, thank God for, I don't think I actually ever thanked God at that time, going, oh, thank God that went well. I was like, yeah, I'll take this praise, right? And I let my ego soar and things. And that was that. Then that kind of got checked a little bit. And I was like, whoa, my pride is soaring. And well, I say, whoa, my pride is soaring. I have a very loving wife who highlighted to me that my pride was soaring. And she was dead right, because no one knows you as well as your spouse. I know Jesus, but Jesus knows you best. But what I mean is, there's no person, here that we live with that'll know you as well as your spouse. And that was highlighted to me. And then I was asked to do something else. And the next thing, I kind of thought, oh no, if I say yes to this, then my pride could go through the roof and all this kind of nonsense. And then I was thinking, out of humility, I should say no. And then, so it happened anyway that I had spiritual direction anyway about a week later. So I just mentioned it. And he said to me, that's not humility. That's false humility. He said, which is pride. You're thinking, I should say no, I should, Yeah. And I suppose, if we spell it out, pride, the center of pride is I. And when everything revolves around I, we know we have a problem anyway. But what he said to me was, he said, always say yes. He said, just if you're asked to serve, just say yes. He said, and like if it's a good cause, just say yes. And then don't feel, well, I better aim for that top position, or I better aim for this. He said, humility is saying, I'll say yes, and whatever I'm asked to do, say yes to. So if I'm asked, if I'm just asked at an event, can you just stay and clean the toilets? Well, someone has to do that job. And if I say, no, I'm above this job, well, that's my pride. But if I'm asked to do another job, just say yes. It doesn't matter, just whatever job you're asked to do, say yes. And that's kind of the humility, that's the service. And so from there, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So I guess it was kind of like that, when I was asked with this Ignite conference, it was just, I'll just say yes to different things along the way. And then the Lord uses our talents and gifts and assembles. So when we don't have pride or we don't have false humility, and we just say yes, he can just assemble us and then we can all be put into the different things and create something great. And so when you asked me to do this, I was like, I'm the least qualified person to do it, but I'll say yes and we'll see how it goes. But so again, like that, we will see how it goes.
We will. It's all in God's hands. Yeah. And what will be. Because I always said, look, if this whole project falls flat on its face, so be it. But I knew if we didn't try, that we'd regret it, especially as, look, for a while, even in praying about it and everything, I know myself and Anna, we began running from it, and we started almost putting conditions before God, saying, look, this is so out of our comfort zone. This is, we know nothing about this. And then we're saying, look, let's go so far and we'll do a little bit and then we can hand it over or whatever. But look, it is what it is. And, all you can do is just be faithful to what God is asking, and the rest is in his hands. Because I suppose, look, he doesn't ask you to be successful. He has to be faithful. The rest is up to him. So,
and that's the thing. And it's just kind of going where the Spirit moves it. And, yes, there are other sites doing similar things around the world. There's some in Ireland, there's some in the UK, there's some in the States. I came across some in Australia. There are others doing it, and it's funny because we're talking about God, who is infinite, and there's us who are finite, and so there is no one person, there is no one site, there is no collection of sites or collection of people that can cover every single area of the church. Even to do a catechism course, which is quite a quick course, it's pretty much, David, broken into like 3 years of six kind of blocks of kind of things. And I know there's different courses or whatever, but like a theology degree, you're spending 4 years, studying your theology, and you come away from it going, right, I've just dipped my toe in theology. There is so much more to go into. So nobody can cover everything. And, it's just, again, when I look at the weekend, God will use once we're just faithful, say yes, no pride, just say yes and go with it. God will use every different, site, different company, different things to bring different people back, to Jesus. And I suppose all we can really do is just, those people who stumble across this site, that we can try and help to, put down those little steps that will pave that way home to God. Yeah.
Kevin, we've been chatting for over an hour. It feels like 5 minutes.
Wow.
We better give Maura back her kitchen, and I better get home to Lana.
That's a very, very sexist comment, right?
But that's it. But look, thank you for the chat, and thanks to everyone that is tuned in to watch it. We hope you got something out of it, and follow the Faith and Reason podcast, the Paving the Way Home podcast, and we'll chat to you soon.
And again, when we are in full flow, that, and which is not like after COVID. I mean, when we're just starting up and stuff like that. But when we're in full flow and we have a routine, your show will have a podcast dropping every week. I'll have one dropping every week. So you'll get 2 every week, and articles as well. So so
that's it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
God bless.